I started karate when I read about it in the Buller supplement.
In the
Buller supplement.
Buller?
Oh yeah, sorry, I can't say the letter B. What, C? Yes, due to a trauma I suffered when I was a lad, I was frightened by a bat. What, a cat? No, a bat. Well, can you say the letter K? Oh, certainly. Kinky, khaki, King's Bolly's Bainbridge. Well, how about spelling colour with a K? Well, spell Buller with a K. Colour. Oh, I am a silly bunt.
Anyway, straight to YouTube, that one. Well, on that note, we might as well just start with that, shall we? That's the opening of the podcast. So, guys, this is the first time that we have done it face to face.
Indeed.
Because we thought, in this current outbreak of coronavirus, we might as well get together and do it. That makes sense.
Obviously.
And to make it even better, we brought someone who's a little bit older to sit next to us. And Rick says he's here because he was teaching a wonderful seminar yesterday. So, we will get right into it, shall we? Everyone knows Dr. Martin Sensei. So, first question from Paul Uren. I've seen videos on biomechanics where people have said there is a correlation between hip rotation speed and ball speed for pitching a baseball. Is this true, and can it link to karate punches power, i.e. hip speed and punching power?
Yes and yes.
Excellent, next question.
Next question.
My balls move quicker when I use my hips.
Your balls move quicker.
Yeah.
I know where this is going.
It's already gone.
This is going to be either really, really good or really, really bad.
Right, well, the first point to make is to clarify my scientific academic status as not a biomechanist, which some people may be confused with because you keep using the word biomechanics in talks. I'm a sports scientist with a limited knowledge of biomechanics, which probably puts me at a much higher level than most karate people because they haven't any sports science at all. So usually I just ask Dr. Matt Payne the question, he tells me the answer, and I let you know.
You translate.
Translate, there you go, that's my
Yeah.
remit.
Yeah.
But for Paul's question, the connection between hip rotation, ball speed with baseball, yes, there is a relationship, but there's lots of stages in between that can impact that relationship. So think of it as rather than having a rod where you move one end and the other end will move, it's a chain. And there's lots of links in that chain, and if the links are correctly aligned and all synchronized at the right time, then you get a very good cause and effect relationship. However, if you have one break in that link, then it's reduced. If you have multiple breaks in the link, then it's reduced even further.
Because some people really kind of become hip centric, don't they? And they really focus on a fast rotation of the hip, and then it breaks the link rather than the slower rotation of the hip, and then maintaining a link. So the link is more important. Yeah.
The link, it's a synchronicity. It's the timing, the balance, and the yin and the yang all coming together. It's the positioning of the final output from the start, and it has to be together. It has to be coordinated.
Cool.
So the main answer to that is you need a bat. Not a cat. No,
Not a cat.
Excellent. Rick says anything further to add to that? Or
No,
just the
bat.
Get a bat. Okay. From Pele, if you measure motion energy, you can think of two completely different things. One, that the movement forward with, for example, one arm can be doubled if the energy in the other backward arm is completely transferred to the other. Or two, your hip and thus your body mass move in the same direction as the stroke and thus increase the total moving mass, which increases the force of the stroke more with mass than with speed. I guess that's why, for example, Mrotuke is performed in Kokutsudach with both co-rotating and counter-rotating hips. Complicated? We'll probably better talk about this over a beer. I don't know quite if that was a question in that, but there is certainly a point of view.
There's a point of view, and I think the point is actually linked to Paul's.
Yeah.
In that he's talking about the hip rotation linking to the ball speed in baseball.
Yeah.
Well, that point is the fact that he's talking about one arm pulling back is pushing the arm out. And the answer actually is exactly the same. Yes, you will increase the energy of the arm going out with correct pulling back. If you time it wrong, you won't.
Yeah.
So it has to be together. Sensei Matt Payne's analogy is the seesaw. So if you have a rigid seesaw in one position at the bottom, you put a small force on the other end, you will move it. If it's a very singular rigid body.
Yeah.
As soon as you introduce any variation in that, it doesn't work as well. So it must be coordinated.
Yeah.
So the correct yigite must be there in order to maximise your power. But if yigite pulls back and then your arm punches out, you've wasted the energy.
Well, so in that analogy of the seesaw, you're saying that like there's a direct transfer between the pressure that you put on the top seesaw to the bottom seesaw.
But only if there's
it's
a rigid.
But the human body isn't rigid. So the pulling back of hikite has to be linked and connected, and if it's not, it has no possible transfer possibility.
Exactly, and that analogy probably explains a lot of the issues with people trying to understand physics and mechanics in martial arts, because the physics, the laws of physics, the movements, the forces, we all learn that as the basics, but the translation and application of that to the human body is an area of study that people dedicate their lives to and still don't have the answers. And we come in as Karate Kai, do a couple of years training and go, oh, laws of physics, we can easily understand that. Well, the people studying it can't give us a correct answer because none of the sums add up. Because there's so many variables in between.
To be certain is uncomfortable, but to be uncertain is uncomfortable, but to be certain is absurd.
I like that.
Makes sense. So do you think hikite adds power to your punch?
Well, no, I think the main thing about a seesaw is that you got to be the same weight, because I remember as a lad sitting on the seesaw, my brother jumping on the other, I went right up in the air and split my nose.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so seesaws work good, but they've got to be balanced.
I don't know if that's either just really superficial or really deep.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, hikite does increase the power of your punch.
It does.
But only if it's done at the same time.
You know, there's a huge debate online about hikite.
No,
Yeah.
but I can expect there is.
Yeah. I mean, it's not necessary. I think the people make the leap of saying it is necessary in order to create power.
No,
which is absurdly.
we were doing this last night, using
Yeah.
it differently.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's quite a good training mechanism, isn't it, to get that link initially.
Just
And then
tidy.
Yeah. Okay. We're doing well. Third question. Karate is primarily known for the straight line techniques. When it comes to circular techniques like moshigeri, do you see benefits in not following through with the kick? It's something I see, this is from Ross, almost all karate struggle with, even when hitting bags or pads. The regular practice of stopping the kick in Kihon teaches them to hold the hips back in order to land in a correct stance, which seems superficial. Is there any mechanical benefit to a Kihon style of Mawashigeri, or is it outdated mode of practice?
Right, well, I have actually already Facebook answered Ross on this to explain
Know that.
what we can do is set up a weekend where they can come to Loughborough and we can actually do all the measurements and show them the numbers.
Yeah.
The answer is that the controlled washigari that we teach with the snap back and back in the stance teaches your body movement patterns.
Movement patterns.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doing shikakai, where they swing round and the momentum follows through, or kaiku shinkakai, or even the Muay Thai when they do the spin, you will get maybe a faster foot speed at the very end of it, but it will take longer to actually get there in the first place. It's a very telegraphed movement, you can see it coming, but once you see it coming you can't stop it, you need to get out of the way of it. So it's different kicks for different purposes. Mawashigari from Shokan is very, very controlled. We have a true exponent of Mawashigari sat over there. It works very, very well. There's absolutely no limitation in power. It can drop somebody as easily as any other kick.
Yeah.
If done correctly. The Shotokan washi gives you a much better level of control though. It means you don't have
Especially with
to
steel toe caps on. It really works. Yeah. It's hard to pull back then too.
But it's that balance, isn't it? It's always a kind of a balancing act between the weight that the mass that you can put into it and the speed that you can put into it. So like Shotokan Moshigeri, like if you think about Kagawa Sensei's front leg Moshigeri, like he would like from Kamai front leg Moshigeri and score perfectly with it because it was so devastatingly fast. Whereas like a Kyokushin karate, like you say, off the back leg winding up, like if it hits you, it'll cut you in half. So it's like it's mass
So
versus
with a
speed.
Mayashi washi, when you use your front leg, the way I always perform it and understand it is the foot leaves the hip. So it's sharp, so the foot goes first and the hips goes
digs
in
in at the
finally.
end,
The big washi from Kiashi, you fire it with your hip, but when I could still kick, I always pushed my hips on impact.
Okay.
So I didn't turn them. I lifted, turned them into the momentum, but then as the leg locked, I pushed my hips a bit more like
kicked
it
it with your supporting leg kind of.
Yeah, and it stops you dead.
Yeah.
And breaks your hips, but it works.
Yeah.
So kirigeri, like front leg marshi, the foot leads the hip. I find throw the foot, the hip comes in last. But the big moshigeri, the hip fires the turn, but then you shouldn't you shouldn't release the hip too much because then it overgoes. So imagine you've got your kiashi and the hip turn, that's the fire. Then it transfers to the leg. But what I used to do then was push my hip in the direction of the kick. So on the kiashi, I could then punch them and things. And
KUGB competitions.
it is.
But you were saying last night about kind of Terry O'Neill sensei as well, kind of having that kind of winding, kind of taking a couple of people out with Oromawashi or Mawashigeri, like unstoppable.
Terry could do things which weren't human.
Yeah.
He's just total master of his legs, kicks.
But I suppose there's a huge amount of mass behind it as well.
Yeah, a lot of power behind it. But we never thought about stuff like that. This is all new, the mechanics of how it goes. We just kicked.
But better kind of knowledge earned through hard work than knowledge earned through just thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's physically learned knowledge, right?
Yeah.
It's just
Experiential learning.
That's what I'm
I
interested
don't really know what you're talking about, but
experiential learning.
Yeah.
I've just lost my. What have I done? Oh,
Oh,
there we
she's
go.
pretty.
Just for evidence. Okay.
Next question.
Next question. Moving on. Simon has asked a question. What weight training lifts would you recommend for karateka? Heavy squats, heavy deadlifts, snatches.
Yes.
Okay, next
Okay.
question.
One of the things about karate is that it uses so many muscles, and you need to have a range of exercises in order to be able to cover all those muscle groups that you use, because we engage the body, and therefore you have to train the body, which means all the muscles. So just going to the gym and doing bicep curls for the beach is going to get you big biceps, but it's not going to allow your whole body to be able to do the exercise. You need a range of exercises. And you need heavy weights in order to build up the strength, and you need the lighter weights to get the full range and the speed of motion. But any of the top karateka will have done weights, and they will have done a range of weights, and they'll have done it for a long time.
I've never done weights, so therefore.
By definition,
Definition.
there's still room for improvement.
Yeah. I was heavy into weights at one point.
I feel very
But only for the beach.
Okay.
Yeah,
Did it
Karate,
work?
you see, in my view, then karate makes karate better.
Yeah.
Running makes running better. Weight training makes weight training better.
Okay.
But of course, it's all changed now. But I did use weights, especially being very skinny and with not too much power, but I could create a lot of whip in the length of using my limb. So anything that kept me safe-ish in Japan was my reach. My arms were longer than their legs. So I became pretty masterful with Kazami. I needed it. But yes, weight training.
So seriously, you never did it for karate? You just did it.
No, I did it for physique.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the truth.
See, I've still got hope. Okay, next. Yeah.
Next, yeah.
Alexander Best, how does body usage of Shotokan, as mentioned by Ross, compare to how other styles apply themselves, especially the more rotational styles?
The same answer really. It's different. It's different horses for different causes. The rotational styles will give you a faster speed, but they will take much longer. They're telegraphed.
Yeah.
A Shotokan kick will arrive very, very quickly. Kaikushinkai, you'll see it coming, but you won't be able to stop it.
Yeah.
And they train. It's different purposes. Kaikushinkai, you don't punch to the head. So if you get kazamied in the face against a kazami expert, then you're going down. But they never do that.
Yeah.
Therefore, their defence and their attack is built around that type of environment. Boxers never get kicked. Therefore, they're always open to being kicked. So there's lots of techniques that have been specialised for certain purposes, and we lose sight of what that purpose is and why it was developed. And it may be the fastest movement in that case, but if you're stood in front of somebody, they have to play by your rules. That's not how life works.
I was
understand all of it.
Yeah, I was reading something recently about, I think it was the Durant paradigm or the Durant paradox, something where I can't remember quite the title of the theory, but basically he was saying that any axiomatic truth is automatically flawed because it is taking out certain aspects of reality in order to greater understand reality, and so therefore you might have a greater depth of understanding, but only within the parameters that you've studied. So so for example, MMA being the ultimate fighting contest. Well, yeah, but not if you fall badly as you take someone to the ground, or they're kicking you in the head, or whatever it is, And even then, even within that kind of very small microcosm, you get the Gracie brothers kind of dominated for a while, and then the other people found out a way to beat them, and then they dominate, and it's always kind of like this truth is better than this truth is better, but it's all basically truths that aren't actual reality. So it kind of fits in the same. Like if you're going to study circular techniques, then sure, that's going to be really super powerful. But then someone will say, well, I'm faster. Or if you study fast techniques, you'll be, oh, that's super fast, yeah, but I'm more powerful. And it's always that balance, isn't it?
Always that.
Yeah.
And individuals have strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
So if you have a strength, work on your weakness.
Yeah.
And then you become more rounded.
Yeah.
If you have a strength and you work on that strength will get better, but your weakness will get a bigger difference.
Yeah.
So if you have a strength, work on it. If you have a weakness, work on that harder.
Yeah.
And then you become more rounded.
Yeah. Don't practice what you're good at. You're already good at it. Practice what you're bad at.
There we go.
Yeah. It's like the speed of light. Bear with me. I was talking to a physicist once, and I was like, "What's the story about the speed of light?" I was like, "Well, because if it's a particle, like the faster something goes, the heavier it becomes."
Is it a particle?
So, and he was like, "Exactly. That's why it's both a particle and a wave, because it can't be a particle. Because if it was a particle, then it couldn't reach the speed of light. But it can't be a wave because it's projected as a particle. So, yeah, speed of light." Constantly the balance between mass and speed. The fight between mass and speed.
It's always there, whether it's particle or whole body or planetary.
Yeah.
It's always there.
Yeah.
Well, I'm an accountant, so therefore too boring to answer. You lost me the second you said good morning.
You lost me the second you said bunt. Okay, Natalia says, a question from Nashville Shotokan Karate Club. Valentine said, how fit does one need to be to start karate? Well, I think it doesn't take a scientist to say it doesn't at all, right? Anyone can start.
The thing with training is, because I've been through a lot in being serious with my hips. Having 2 hip replacements within 6 months. But I found, you see, karate's got a secret, it's kata. So the kata, if we all did the same kata, I would do it as good as and as strong as I can. You the same. So It's totally versatile. You can put as much or as little as needed into exercise. It's a perfect exercise.
Yeah.
So you don't need to be fit. You will get fit.
Yeah.
But you get fit because of,
Yeah.
not get fit to do karate at the end.
Yeah.
You know, in my thing, like I said, joking aside, karate makes karate better. Simple as that. So we use all these auxiliary training methods, but the truth is, you know, the punch is the punch, and the more you do it, the stronger you get. So it doesn't matter if my hips are throwing it out or whether this is going this. When this hits you, it hurts.
I know. I
Look at
felt
that.
it last night.
And of course, there's a deeper secret. The secret of punching is so as in the end we never have to punch.
Cool. Question number 2. Is there an age requirement to practice karate? It's case by case, isn't it? By dojo. From here, we take them from 5. I guess you don't have children.
No, I won't. I don't teach any younger than 15.
Yeah. I mean, it's like some dojos, they'll start taking them from like 3.5, like you know, kindergarten karate.
Or even in the womb.
Well, they do kick well.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a growing child has limitations on their body because you can't overstress it. Once you reach adolescence and you're through that major growth phase and your bones are closed up, then you can basically get into the serious stuff.
Yeah.
So anybody training kids just needs to make sure they don't do too much or too stressful. But they can do things.
Yeah.
That's no problem.
I mean, just simply physical intelligence. I mean, that's what the learning, right?
Yeah.
Which is the same as any sport. So, not that karate is a sport.
Children, youngsters doing karate should play at karate.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, the system I teach, that I can't take them below 15 because it's all spirit and mind.
Yeah.
And you don't know, you want the kid to play.
Yeah.
The child should play much more than they do now.
Yeah.
The world's making them all too serious, you know.
Yeah, certainly in this dojo, like the teaching model, especially for the beginner to kind of intermediate level, so like from 5 to maybe 10 years old, is very play orientated. And they, you know, like there's some traditions out there go, that's terrible, but they enjoy it more, they get more from it, they improve faster, and it gives them a great foundation to then progress to become quite good karateka. Okay, Eric has asked, I'd like to
I would like to point out that my voice is deeper than yours.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I feel yet again inadequate in other ways. I'd like to know more about and get further explanation in the karate snap that Scott discussed in his book Shuhari. I can't remember that article actually. Well, karate snap, but like you said, I guess it's the same thing as what you used to kind of, or you rely on a lot in your karate, was the whip, right?
Yeah.
Would you like to talk about that?
Not really.
Okay. Let's talk
You
about
see, it was simpler in my day. It's not going back to saying the good old days. It was simpler. You know, you learned to punch, you learned to kick. Yeah, you learned the mechanics, but they weren't biomechanics. So it just that's the way it's done. So you never ever questioned it. But if you just got somebody raw and showed them a technique, let's say a front kick or maigeri, and sent them away to practice, all these things which we put into it, they would find naturally, because the body does it naturally. If it's got to send the power out in that way with the snap of the uchi, it'll automatically tighten the quad, which will stretch the bicep here, which will pull it back. The hips will automatically curl underneath. Most of it's automatic, you know. But I say, karate-wise, it's very important you hit something. You know, very important. It's no good to keep hitting the air. You need to work on a bag, you need to work on a makuhara, and you need to hit people, basically, which is in the dojo, of course. I mean, I certainly don't stress real fighting or no. But what I'm saying is that if you show somebody a front kick, right, do that with a front kick. Slowly but surely, the body will automatically find the mechanics to do it. This thing is a miracle. Well, mine is. You know, yours probably not so much, but you know, it is. It's amazing.
Let's just point out he was talking about the article I wrote in my book. I forgot what I was going to say something then.
I told you shouldn't have brought me in. Oh, me!
What was I going to say? I can't remember. I'm sorry, who was that? Who asked the question? Eric, I'm sorry, I did have something insightful to say. Did you want to say anything about that?
That's absolutely fine for me.
Let's move on.
Moving on.
Okay, Lauren Hart has asked, are there any notable structural differences between male... Let Martin answer first, please.
I'm sitting here, I'm very quiet drinking my coffee.
Are there any differences between males and females that would require a female to significantly alter certain aspects of karate, in reference to stance in particular? Martin!
That's it, there we go. Male and female differences. A female pelvis to humerus ratio gives a different Q angle.
What's a Q angle?
Q angle is basically the angle between the knee and the hip based on the length of the humerus and the width of the hip.
Okay.
So you'll see this in adolescent growth. So girls growing up, you'll see their legs will be straight underneath them, and then as they grow and develop, their hips will become wider, and they will start to have their knees pulled in.
Okay.
And you have the knock-kneed heel flare
Okay.
that any PE teacher will tell you they see in girls as they transition through 10, 11, 12, 13. So you find that their kicking mechanic changes.
Okay.
Because they have a slightly wider hip and a slightly narrower knee in the relationship.
Okay.
Now that takes a long time, therefore it's not really a problem. Does this difference exist? Yes. Do you go through a transition? Yes, but it takes time. So as long as you're training through that process, your body will adapt to it as you go. If somebody starts and they've got a very big Q angle, you may find that their front stance, their front knee will push in.
Okay.
Because their hips wider, the knees coming together, so the front knee will collapse in more easily.
Okay.
So they just have to work on keeping it correct. But it's easier for the male skeleton to do that than it is the female. So the female will find it more difficult. I say male and female, everybody varies hugely different. My hips are slightly wider. I have wide hips, therefore I have to work hard on my knee coming together.
Everybody wears skirts on Thursdays.
Only Thursday.
Yeah.
Who Martin does?
Yeah.
Only Thursdays, yeah?
Yeah.
That's not what I heard. Okay.
Say nothing.
Okay, so
yes, there are male and female differences.
Yeah. And it's more challenging for them to maintain kind of knee stability.
It can be.
Yeah.
If they start.
Okay. Before.
Yeah.
After the transition.
Yeah. If they're training through the problem, they probably won't even notice.
Okay. And the alignment though is the same, is it?
The alignment will be slightly different, but their tendons, ligaments, muscles, and everything else will be compensating for that. So there won't be that much of a difference.
Okay.
You get a bigger muscle mass in male than female. Therefore, you have a heavier body mass, and you have a stronger technique because of the muscle mass.
Yeah.
The actual muscle itself isn't any different.
Yeah.
So a female will train hard and gain muscle mass and become strong.
Yeah.
It's not a problem.
Cool. Okay, it's all in the edit. I can edit this out.
Okay.
Any
That's not to ask me about things like that. The difference between men and women. But I treat them all the same. There aren't men and women in my dojo. It's just karateka.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Orban then asked, I think this is an important consideration to avoid unnecessary injuries, and one I almost never see addressed. Structural difference in lower back, hips, knees, and ankles are common, and mean that advice aimed at a more typically male physiology can lead to damage. That's in answer to Lauren's.
To Lauren's question,
Yeah.
I would say that we get the idea that all males are the same, but you've got three karate guys sat on the sofa here.
Yeah.
And we all have completely different physiology.
I'm very different.
Talking about physical, not mental.
Oh, okay.
So you have a level of variation. We don't have this dichotomy of male and female in physical activities. You have tall people, short people, wide people, strong people. So we have all ranges. The idea of there being a perfect position is actually a fundamental flaw.
Yeah.
It's perfect within the limits and range of your physiology. It doesn't mean that you should forget the front knees collapsing in, but it means some people will never get that perfect.
Yeah.
Some people focus so much on pushing the front knee that it goes beyond.
Yeah.
Which is just as bad as it coming in.
Yeah, sure.
there's a range, an optimal range, and you should work to get into it.
Yeah.
But once you're in that optimal range, further work isn't going to improve it
Yeah.
if you're naturally not predisposed to be able to do it.
Yeah.
So I think the idea of getting an 18-year-old boy and 18-year-old girl and forcing the girls doing identical techniques, I'd agree, is wrong. They have to do it to the best of their ability. We have all shapes and sizes.
Well, equally getting two 18-year-old boys and forcing one to do the same as the other is equally wrong.
Yeah, they're different.
Yeah.
You've got all shapes and sizes of instructors of karate. Any course you go to, you'll see different instructors have different techniques which fit their physiology, and they do it very, very well. But it's slightly different to everybody else in the class.
I think it's just about kind of moving away from that kind of draconian, absolutist teaching, right? Where it must be like this, and if you don't do it like this, it's wrong. And so basically, the instructor is just forcing every single person, whether it be male or female, to follow their type of karate, which is kind of ego-driven role.
I think the principle can be
principle the same,
Principle can be very much, this is what you must do, but there is a degree of variation. I mean, we've got different guys in our dojo. Their chest is so big, it's like it's physically impossible. And, you know, they block the sun out with the size of this. They're that much different from it, so they'll never do it exactly the same. But they all work very, very hard on doing exactly the same principle. I think it's the principle that's important, and working hard at getting it right.
Cool.
Do as I say, not as I do. Aristotle.
Harry who?
His bloke used to live by me. Aristotle.
Aristotle,
His surname was Stottle. His first name's Harry. His name was Harry Stottle. He came out
from
with some,
Croydon, was he?
came out with some gems.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, I was from Croydon. How do you know?
Yeah, tall guy,
Yeah, tall guy.
blonde hair.
3 arms.
Yeah, that's the
That's
one.
the man.
My mum knew him. Okay, okay. Juden from Sri Lanka has said, actually the word kime is from kimeru. Kime means only focus, or is there any connection to biomechanics, like set of techniques? Yeah. So, well, I mean, kime just means kimeru to means to decide, to be decisive. It describes the decisive part of the technique. And I would argue that that is either when your arm leg finishes the stretch, or you hit something. I mean, that's basically like the Japanese when they say, you know, ukete kimete, they're saying receive the technique and then be decisive. Well, we translate that as block counter. So I think it's just kind of it's gone from kind of in a Japanese terminology sense, it's gone from just being a description of how you want to be, how you want to act, to becoming a thing that especially the West has kind of really taken on board of kime is something. So, you know, I think there's a big misunderstanding there. But that's not, having said that, is kime as the sense of kind of when we hit something or when we kind of lock in, is that actually a thing?
Yeah, well,
that can be described. Yeah.
If you take kime to be a locking, then it's a muscular tension with your agonist-antagonist muscles locking a position. If you look at the skeletal system, it's the end of the range of motion. And if you coordinate the end of the skeletal range of motion with a muscular contraction, then you'll have a completion of the technique. If I've got broken right elbow and a non-broken left elbow, so my skeletal structure is different right to left, but it will go to the end of that range of motion, the end of the technique, and finishes.
That's what I was taught by my sensei Takashi. Kime is to finish. So finish has all sorts of things. Finish the technique. So therefore, everything has to be correct. So if you said Gyakuzuki or Kime, this has to be finished. This has to be finished. This has to be finished. So my understanding of Kime is really very simple. Finish. So to finish, everything, all the motion stops at that point.
Yeah. But then, if you're actually hitting something, you know, my problem with conceptualizing it in this way is that kime point where everything finishes, the end of the range of motion, the locking in of the muscles, everything coordinating to finish, is then counterproductive, because then what it teaches people is that this is the strongest part of the technique. when actually you're rapidly slowing down your technique, the strength, the bell curve strength of your muscle is being depleted by the time it gets to the end of range of motion. So you're actually going to hit something hard, then you're never going to hit them at this end of range of motion. You're going to hit them that middle third. And so people kind of have made Kime into a thing and then think that this locking in is the powerful point when it's actually not.
Yeah, you've got, again, it's conceptualization. So if you, I talked to Ross about this last night, you get a heavy bag and you put a blindfold on and you swing the bag and you hit it.
Yeah.
And wherever you hit that bag, wherever it is, it may be at the full extension, maybe half extension, but if your technique doesn't finish on impact, then your body will collapse when you do it.
Yeah.
But if you actually finish the technique at impact at the correct point, then you could say is correct, the posture, everything else coordinates to finish the technique.
Yeah.
And that's a connection, a finish, a full technique. It doesn't mean full technique is my arm is extended completely all the way around.
Yeah.
Means full when it hits. When it hits is Kime, it's finished.
Yeah.
But just like everything else in life, I don't think it ever finishes. It is the start of the next. So Kime done correct. You could say, oh, it means this. It doesn't. When it hits what it's aimed at, that's Kime. And then. Can I hit you?
No, not again, Cincy. Only one hit per visit.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think people often misunderstand Kime when they don't hit stuff. It's a little bit like trying to kind of describe love and having never felt it, and it's like this and this and this, and it never really kind of like you're just talking kind of complete nonsense, right?
Told you.
Love.
It would always come back to.
But you know what I'm saying? Like you never quite understand what it is until you feel it. You know what I'm saying?
No, too well.
Okay. So what I'm saying is like hit something and then you never really discuss what Kime is.
Yeah, no, you understand.
Yeah.
Totally. Like we did. It's really vital for karateka, especially Shotokan, to hit things because we don't do it enough.
Yeah, for sure.
And in fact, you get a lot of Shotokans, actually saying, "Oh, don't do that." Like the MMA fighters, they can fight.
Yeah.
So this moving the pads and striking it, heavy bag work, Makawari, it's vital.
Yeah.
It's as important as Garambarai.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, sure. Any advice on stances for folks who, this is from Reva Tarn in Pittsburgh, who overpronate and might not have arches?
Underneath the arches.
Yes.
Okay.
Arch of the foot, it's anatomical structure. Some people have high arches, some people have low arches, some people have fat feet. It is a biomechanical structure that they've grown up with, and the fact that they have flat feet or dropped arches.
So what does overpronate mean?
Well, you've got supination and pronation, so it's just the rotation of the ankle. So as you heel strike and roll, and some people will flatten out their foot.
Okay, and that's overpronate.
And some people will flatten a lot more than others.
Okay.
I don't because I have a high arch in my foot, so I'll roll through. Some people say you don't have an arch and you can't have the correct foot position. It's not correct.
Yeah.
What you'll find is if you overpronate and it changes your ankle and then pushes the knee in and then drops the hip, well, that's not correct. But all you do is if you have feet that overpronate and you have problems with the arches, then you just correct with a small correction in the ankle, small correction in the knee, small correction to maintain a better alignment.
Okay.
Will it be exactly the same as somebody who has high arches? No, it won't. But can it still be effective? Yes, it can. It just needs need more proprioception awareness.
Yeah.
Rather than just doing front stance, you need to be aware of your foot, aware of your knee, aware of your hip, which too many people just do front stance. Whereas if you find I've got a bad knee, then I'll know my knee's not right. I've got a foot that overpronate, I know my foot.
Yeah.
Well, it's good that aware of that.
Yeah.
If you're aware of everything, then you just correct every single bit in the chain, a small amount, and you'll get the better.
Yeah.
Plus, it goes back to what we were saying, that the body is so natural. I've got so many injuries. This is so broke. From years of training, that I don't have to think that to turn my foot out to come up if I'm sore drawing or from Caesar. My body did it. I didn't decide that if I turn my foot out, it takes the pain out of my knee, even though that's the correct shape. The body's an amazing thing. It will make these alterations itself, and sometimes when we analyse, look into it and try and change it, it's wrong. But whenever your technique lands, it always flattens everybody. So therefore, everybody's flat.
Yeah.
But it does it itself.
Yeah.
It's interesting and it's entertainment learning about it. And of course it improves sports at different levels. I mean, the sportsmen today are so much stronger, faster and better than they were because of biomechanics and the rest of the understanding. But at the end of the day, this does it.
Yeah.
It will do it. You try and experiment, get a beginner and just show them a punch and send them off to do it. You'll be surprised what they come back with.
I mean, it's like that sweat equity, isn't it? You've got to put sweat equity into your training. You can't just sit there and think about it. You've actually got to pay for it by allowing your body to find the way.
Yeah, and took breaks. Only when the shell is broken will the inside of the egg reveal itself. Mao Zedong, again another friend of mine. His name is his name is Mao Zedong. We called him Mao Zedong, and he was part of the Tung family.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Isn't Mao Zedong a short abbreviation of Matthew?
It probably was.
In the north.
Yeah, it was. Mao Zedong.
Mao Zedong, yeah.
So I knew them both.
Yeah. Okay. Hope that helped, Reva. Sean, flexibility can be a challenge with karate, particularly coming into it late in life. I've read a lot of debate around how best to increase flexibility or range, particularly with kicks. It's something that I spend a lot of time working on with little return or of any significance. Much of what I have read suggests basic stretching, static stretching, will never be enough to. So my question is, one, how much of a part does an individual natural body mechanics play in their ability to increase flexibility and range? Are you naturally limited? And two, what are the best ways to actually achieve the goal of increasing flexibility and range?
Question two. There's a huge range of flexibility. As far as people first starting, some people are naturally flexible, have good range of movement of the joints, have lengthy muscles, have flexible muscles, others don't. Everybody can get better. However, getting a lot better in flexibility takes a lot of hard work and time, and you need enough flexibility to do the technique correctly. You don't need to be able to put your head vertically into the ceiling and then go behind your neck, because that's of no use to any technique. So we get hung up on flexibility. You need to do it. You need to have range of motion. The idea of static stretching versus dynamic stretching there's huge amounts of literature about it. You will get better if you do dynamic stretching. What we do in karate is dynamic, and a lot of our warm-up routines, a lot of our training routines are dynamic flexibility. So if you're struggling with flexibility, train more. If you come up against a wall where your technique won't work, then you can do some static stretching specific to that area to make it better. But people over-focus on flexibility. Everybody needs to do it, but it can be incorporated into sessions, and it can be incorporated in your own practice, and you need enough flexibility to do the techniques. But going beyond that and focusing just on the flexibility, it doesn't enhance the technique. So yes, flexibility is important. Everybody's different, everybody has a different level. Everybody can get better, but how much better do you need to be in order to do the technique we're trying to do?
Anything to say about that?
Absolutely. It boils down to everybody is just themselves. You must always strive to become better than you are, not try to copy somebody who's not you. Therefore, trying to do somebody else's karate is detrimental. You just do your own. I was always quite flexible because I started so young, but it doesn't make no difference. I've got people in my dojo that are very stiff. It's just no matter how much stretching they do, they're that. But again, the body finds ways around the technique. So.
I think that one of the issues is that, like, karate instructors, whether they be in a local dojo or an international level, they tend to be physical outliers, don't they? They tend to be the ones that are naturally physically talented and maybe naturally physically flexible and stuff like that, and then they become the norm. Like, they're the ones that that the students are trying to emulate, when actually they're the outliers. So yeah, I think absolutely you find your own karate, don't you? Rather
Well, it boils down to it's this that's good, not the person inside it. So when you see these, really outstanding karate who can do this, that, and the other, it's their body that's doing that. They might have the drive and the will, but somebody else that hasn't got that ability has to work twice as hard and never gets anywhere closer. But the way means the way, walking it. So when you understand that it's not, God, he's good. No, he's not. His body's good. It's as simple as that.
I also, though, like, which probably may be a little bit different, but I also, in my years of teaching, I've often found people who are I've often found people who have really stiff thinking tend to also be quite stiff.
Yeah, definitely.
Like rigid. Like, some people who are just so boom, that's the way, tend to be very.
It's like I said last night, the essence of karate is simple, it's freedom. And to find freedom is a very deep philosophical thing. It's freedom in accepting the way we are, getting it as good as we can, but also freedom means no dogma. Be who you are. Okay. Dress up if you want. It's okay.
On Thursdays. Dress up Thursdays. As a scientist, do you want to talk about the mind-body connection of stiffness in both thought and body?
No.
Okay. I didn't think so somehow. Just anecdotal evidence. That's all. Okay, last one, and then I'll take you to the airport, shall I?
Thank you very much.
Getting punched by a sensei is a great way to, this is from Ross again, a great insight into what is happening physically with their bodies when they perform technique. However, last night, when we were talking about how sometimes there can be a factor that goes beyond the biomechanics with certain sensei, and how, for example, Rick Sensei and Steve Ubel Sensei, I guess, each have incredible technique but are totally unique ways. Can this individuality be practiced through physical training, or is it something else entirely?
Well,
Depends how many guineas you've had.
Usually. I mean, I've been hit by a lot of different instructors, and I'm sure you have.
I have.
And again, it's that experiential learning. It's when you get hit by somebody, if you're listening, if your body is listening, you will feel that technique. One of the things I feel with all the good instructors who ever hit me is their connectedness. There seems to be a lot more power than you would think by looking at it, and that's a commonality. But there are vast differences between people's techniques, and you can feel that in when you get hit as well. But that's the development of your own karate. That's your if everybody felt the same when they hit you, then everybody would be doing the same thing. And we're
It's
not.
called ow.
Ow. Is that the technical thing?
Ow.
Ow.
Yeah.
Not all.
So it's like just as important as kime. When you get ow.
What, the person does kine and the receiver does ow?
Yeah.
Okay.
They go together.
Yeah.
And you notice that when you get hit by your sensei, you're actually standing still while he demonstrates your rackums and things, and then you get hit. That's how.
I did. I experienced that last night.
Yeah, funny enough.
I didn't. I just said it internally though. I went, ow.
Yeah.
Followed by another word.
Bastard follows.
No.
No, he does. I think I said bastard more in Japan than any other word. As I spit blood, it sort of went together. So, but there's a routine to it. Ow, bastard, and it becomes a sequence. Ich, ow, ni, bastard, son. That sums it all up, really, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Good place to finish.
Yeah, it does. Did you?
Yeah, that works for me.
Yeah. I was going to going to say that. I won't say that. Okay, on that wonderful note, then I want to thank Rick Sensei for being the guest in our heavily based biomechanical scientific study of karate, and of course our regular master of science, Dr. Martin Sensei. Okay, thanks guys.